If you're using SharePoint, understanding permissions isn't just about security, it's about sanity. Getting this wrong, you'll either have people deleting files that they shouldn't touch, or you'll be buried in emails from people saying access denied. Today, I'm going to walk you through SharePoint permissions from start to finish. If you've watched my previous video where we built the main ChronoTours HQ site, you know we have a lot of moving parts. So today, I'm going to start from scratch by creating a brand new department site so you can see permissions from day one. I'll link the previous video up above and down below in the description if you want to check that out. But before we touch anything, let me give you the mental model. Permissions in SharePoint come down to two things. Groups are the who, they're the containers of people. Permission levels are the what. They define those people and what they can do. You assign permission levels to a group and everyone in that group gets those abilities. Once you understand that, everything else clicks. Here's our scenario. We're going to be setting up a new site for the time travel safety division. We have four types of users: the admins, full control over the site; the tour guides need to edit content; the interns, read-only access; the safety inspectors, a special team that needs specific access separate from the others. I'm already logged in and I'm ready to start a brand new site. So you can see we have create site. When I click on this, I get two different options. I get the team site or the communication site. I covered this more in depth in my last video, so make sure you check out that link. But the key thing to know for permissions is that a team site creates a Microsoft 365 group automatically, which gives you a starting permission structure. A communication site doesn't. So we want to create one with a team site here that will have that automatic group set up. So we're going to choose it. I'm just going to go for this one, choose the standard template, and we're going to click use template. The site name that I'm going to give it is this: ChronoTours Safety. I'm not going to worry myself with any site description or changing any of these. I'm just going to click next. Privacy, I'm choosing private. We don't want the whole company stumbling into our draft safety protocols, so I'm going to keep it private right here, and we'll keep it English and create site. I'm not going to worry with adding members at this time because I can always add them later, and that's what I'll be doing. I'm going to go ahead and click finish. Okay, this site is live. Now here's what just happened behind the scenes. SharePoint automatically created what I call is the golden triangle of permission groups. Let me go up top here into settings and we'll take a look at site permissions. We have the owners get full control, members get limited control, so you can see that they can edit, and visitors get read. These are your three default groups, and they map directly to the groups plus permission levels concept that we just talked about. If you want to quickly adjust how site sharing happens, you can click right here. And notice the default set site owners and members can share files and folders, and the site people with edit permissions can share files and folders. We can adjust this on how the sharing is. If you only want site owners that can share files and folders in site, you can go ahead and choose this. And also notice allow access requests. So if this one, choose who will receive access requests for this site, and you can adjust this through the safety owners or the specific emails. Now, here's the catch. Because this is a team site backed by Microsoft 365 Group, those default permission levels are locked. You can't change them. That's going to matter in a minute. Before we get into creating our custom groups and custom permissions, we can quickly add members or visitors just going up top here to click on member, or even in the site permissions, you saw it right here, add members. Now, if I drop down, notice we can add members to the group or share site only. And I'm going to do it both ways just to explain the difference. So if I add members to the group, I can click on add members and I can start typing their name. Now, remember, site members can edit and view site content, including file pages, list, and navigation. And this is something that you might not want, so you can really customize not putting everybody in members and then giving them a bit more permissions, but taking some away by creating your own custom groups, which we're going to get to in a moment. So I can add Kathy as a member in this case, and I can also remove them very quickly. So you'll see if we drop down, we can remove them from that group. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out is the visitor. So a visitor would come in, they wouldn't be able to change anything. If I go back to site permission And if I go up top here, we can see we drop down share site only. And if I was putting Kathy's name back in here, so this is something you probably want to change. Right now she has edit. If I don't want Kathy to have edit, I can go ahead and just give her read. So this would be allowing her to come to this site and be able just to look at anything without making any edits. So that's going to be the difference between those two. Now, I want to point out one other thing here as we go through. You can see that we're set to a private group right now. You can make an adjustment on this private group. If I go up top here to the site information and I look, so this is where I set it up when I created this group. It's set to private. If I drop down, I can still adjust this now. So if I wanted it to be public, where anyone in the organization can access the site, I can make that change. I'm going to keep it for private for this tutorial. Now, your first instinct might be to just drop the tour guides into this default members group here. But here's something that catches a lot of people off guard. Because we created a team site, the members in the owner groups are tied to a Microsoft 365 group. So this means that the SharePoint locks their permission levels. You can't change them. And if you go into advanced permissions, and I'm just going to exit out of here, and if we're under permissions, you'll see that we have advanced permissions right here. And here's the ChronoTours safety members. If I wanted to edit their permissions, notice this is grayed out. I can't make any changes to it. And this matters because the default member group has the edit permission level. So edit might sound fine, but it actually lets people delete entire document libraries, not just files, but the whole library. So for our tour guides, that's too much power. So here's what we're going to do instead. We're going to go up and create a group and give it contribute permission levels. So contribute lets them add and edit files, but prevents them from deleting the library itself. This is a big safety net. So this group is going to be called the ChronoTours Tour Guides. And if I scroll down, you can see the permission levels that we have that we can add to this group. I'm going to click on contribute and I'm going to go and create this. Now you can see we have one more group right here. Now I'm going to add a person to this and we can see we have new. I'm going to go add users and right in here, I'm going to add Ashton and I'm going to click on his name and click share. You can see I have more options to have a personal message. He'll get invited to this, but I'm just going to click share. So now Ashton can go ahead and add and edit files across the site, but he can't accidentally blow away a document library. And that's the golden rule. Always manage people through groups, not individual files. If Ashton leaves the company next month, I remove him from the group once and he loses access to everything. No hunting through dozens of folders. Now I just went back to this page, refreshed it. You can see that the ChronoTours guides is set up here. If I go ahead and select this, notice I can edit user permissions on this one, remove user permissions. If I click on it, it brings me back to where I was before. And if I wanted Ashton out of here, if I go ahead and select under actions, you can see where you can remove users from the group. You'll notice I'm listed here too. SharePoint adds the creator automatically. I'm going to remove myself since I'm already an owner and have full control. You don't want to clutter up your groups with people who don't need to be there. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove myself from there. I just want to point out a few differences between the different users. So I'll show you from my view, then I'll switch over to Ashton's view. So first of all, if I go up, you can see if I click on member, I can go and add members. If I go over to the new, look at all the things that I can create, a document library, all these different items. So I'm just going to switch over to Ashton's view. Now here's Ashton's view. If I go and click on members, you can see he can't go ahead and add any. If I drop down on the new, it's limited on what that person can do. As a contributor, Ashton won't have all of the same things that a member would have. Remember, I changed it and I didn't want him in the documents libraries, so now he can't go ahead and create one. If I had him as a member, he would have that option here. The other thing is, if I look at the settings, you can see that it's a lot more limited to what I had as the owner. Earlier on, I showed you how we could add Kathy as a member or just giving her read access, acting like a visitor. Now I want to show you a different way we can do this. I'm going to go back up top here to the site permissions and go to the advanced permission settings. And this is where we were before when we went and created the new group and we added Ashton to it. So we can see right here, and it has contribute. What I'm going to do this time though is grant permission. So if I go ahead and click on grant permission, I'm going to go invite people. So I'm going to add Kathy's name here, and you will see it comes up here. Now Kathy's already expecting this message, this invite from me, so I'm not going to worry with sending a message in here. You can see it's optional. But if I drop down here, you can see the permission level. So if I just show this, we have our different groups. So this one had edit, this one was our owners at full control. Here's our safety visitors with read, and here's the other group that we just created that has contribute. But notice it also has the permission levels here. Now, it will allow her to do the same thing, but I'm going to recommend making sure that you pick the group. This is going to make things much easier, because if I assign, let's say if I give her contribute or read, I'm going to have to go, and when I go to her, if I wanted to remove something, go to each person and remove this. So it's much easier going to be working with a group to take them out of the group with those permissions set to a group. So in this case, I'm going to give her back to put her in visitor where she just has read, and I'm going to go and share it. Now, if I go ahead and click on safety visitors here, we can go see Kathy's in here. So the first way I showed you how to create that new group, apply the permissions. This way, I'm just granting permission to people to a specific group. And like I said, it's easier to grant them permissions to a group that has the permission rather than giving the permissions to each individual. Now we have 4 different groups with 4 different permission levels set for each of these. But what I want to point out is this will help you understand what each of these permission levels do. So if I go up top to permission levels, you're going to see that we have all of them right here with a description of what each of these does. Now I want to point out you can edit any of these as well. So if I go and click on contribute, you're going to see that this will open up. And it gives you an idea what contribute can do. So with the checked off ones, those are the things that it will complete. If they're not checked off, they're not going to have those permissions. So you can go through and check off more or less to customize each of these levels. And then you can go ahead and submit or copy permission level. Now, I want to point out, I'm going to go back one level. If I go and I wanted to create it from scratch, I can go and add a permission level. So now I can go give it a name, a description, and just start checking off the ones that I want and have my own custom one that I can add. I went and made a brand new group with the design permission levels. If you want to delete a group, you can go ahead and just click inside of it, and under settings, go to group settings, and at the very bottom, you're going to see a delete. So I'm just going to go ahead and click delete, hit OK. So if I go back now just to the page where I was before under the site permissions and the advanced permissions, you're going to see that we only have the 4 now. Now let's talk about inheritance. This is the concept that trips people up the most. By default, permissions trickle down. The site's permission flow in every library, every folder, every file. So because Kathy, the intern, is a visitor on the site, she can see every folder, including the top secret file I just uploaded. I'm just over in Kathy's view, and remember, she's just a visitor. If I go to the documents, here's that folder I was talking about right here, what she can go ahead and open it up, and this is top secret. I don't want her to see this. Now, I want to break the inheritance on that file. So this is how you can do it in a couple different ways. We can put permissions at the document library or at the file level. So if I go over here to documents, and if we go up top to the settings, you're going to see that we have library settings. Now I'm going to click on more library settings, and you're going to see permissions and management. This is the one I want right here, permission for this document library. Now this is going to look familiar here on how we manage. So you can see this library inherits permissions from its parent, ChronoTours Safety. So everything is going to be inherited down. What we can do is this. We can stop inheriting permissions, and then we can go ahead and customize the settings on the way we want. So, but I do want to point out, this creates a lot more work if you're going to be managing all of your SharePoint with this type of control on it. So if you are going to do it, just be aware that it is going to take a lot more work. I would suggest trying to create your groups as to manage everything as easily as possible. So this is how you can manage the document library, but we can also manage the specific file. So I'm just going to go back to the document here that we have here, and I'm going to click on these three little dots. And if we take a look at this where it says manage access, and I'm going to click on groups, and here we have right here the ChronoTours safety visitors. That's what Kathy's in. So if I click on this one and click on this, I can make some changes. So if I don't want her to have access, I can go ahead and click here and click apply. And it will prompt me, want to remove ChronoTours safety visitors direct access? I'm going to hit sure. If you go up again to these three little dots, the more options, you'll see advanced setting. Now this puts me into the permissions for this specific file. So this document has unique permissions. You can manage it at this level as well. So now taking a look at Kathy's view again, if I go back to documents, you can see that the file is no longer there for her to access it. The file is still there, she just doesn't have access to view it. Now, you might be wondering, how do I actually verify that everything is set up correctly? SharePoint has a built-in tool for that. I'm going to go back up to the site permissions and the advanced permission. You can see right here, there's check permission. I'm going to type in Kathy's name and click check now. SharePoint tells me exactly what permission Kathy has on this site and where they come from. If something looks wrong, this is where you come to diagnose it. I'd recommend doing this anytime you make permission changes just to verify that things are working the right way. Now, I put an individual person in this. You can do this with groups as well. I hope this gives you a strong understanding of how to manage your permissions and groups inside Microsoft SharePoint. This is a very important thing to learn. I'd like to know what else you're wanting to learn, whether it be in permission or groups or about SharePoint. Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this week on Teachers Tech. I'll see you next time with more tech tips and tutorials.